and show your screen. It's brilliant. Thank you so much. So good afternoon and welcome everybody in person and online. Today we are going to be having a very pivotal session at this year's Global Age Assurance Standards Summit. My name is Danny, and I'm the founder and CEO of IDGO, which is the UK's first dual-sided proof of age, identity, and contactless prepaid card. And today we're here to delve into a topic that is both crucial and very often overlooked. The inclusion challenges faced by young people when providing their age or identity, especially those who are transitioning from care or custody. In our society, policy making often centers around the nuclear family model, inadvertently sidelining those from disadvantaged backgrounds or challenging family environments as edge cases. However, it's precisely these young individuals moving towards adulthood from the care system or after release from youth offending institution type custodies who encounter significant practical hurdles in their day-to-day lives. Whether it's proving their age to access services or simply being allowed into places, the challenges are real and impactful. To explore these issues in depth, I'm honored to be joined by three distinguished experts in the field. First, we have Doreen Bonner. Doreen is a specialist probation practitioner who works within a specialist unit from the HMPPS and whose experience and insights into the challenges faced by those reintegrating into society post-custody will be invaluable to our discussion. Secondly, we have Lucy Kettle from NACRO Education Support and Transition, an organisation that is at the forefront of supporting educational and transitional needs for young individuals leaving the care system. And we're also joined in person today, this afternoon, Mark Hain, a digital identity expert with a background in financial services and representing the Open ID Foundation. Mark was also involved in writing a white paper regarding human-centric digital identity. And together we're going to navigate through a series of 6 questions aimed at uncovering the layers of these inclusion challenges, discussing potential solutions and highlighting the crucial role of technology and innovation. Our session aims not only to shed light on these issues, but to spark a conversation that leads to actionable change. So without further ado, let's please welcome our panelists and dive into our discussion. So I'll just give you a second just to say hello, everybody. If Mark, you can just
hello,
introduce
everybody.
them. Lovely.
Thanks very much for having me on the panel.
There we go.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me.
Lovely. And Lucy?
Hi.
Say hello. Brilliant. Thank you so much. Lovely. So the first question we have, hold on, my apologies. Right. So the first question we have is, what are the most significant obstacles that young people leaving care or custody encounter when attempting to prove their age or identity without traditional documents? And how do these challenges impact their ability to access essential services and opportunities? Doreen, we could start with you, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine. I find it's very challenging. There's nothing you can't do without identification. That's just even the basic stuff like registering with a GP, housing. So when they come out of custody and they present themselves to us and we have to forward them onto alternative partnership agencies or services, if they haven't got any identification, it is very, very difficult even to open a bank account. So that's the stumbling block. I'd like to think that a lot of this stuff is explored prior to them leaving custody, but it's not always the way within the resettlement team. So we find that they come out even getting benefits is very, very difficult for them without having any form of ID. A lot of them as well end up going away and a lot of their stuff gets lost. So when they come out again, they've not got access to anything. So for us, it's either trying to provide them with a form of letter of identification, which not everybody will take because they do like to see photographic identification for them to be able to use to acknowledge who they are.
Thank you, Doreen. That was great. And Lucy, would you like me to ask a question again, or? You okay?
Yeah, no, so with the young people, very similar. Again, like, you know, they can't get the universal credit, and then when it comes to housing, and then even with like searching for jobs. So once we've sorted out their universal credit, they can't do much without then having that ID to do anything really. And the trouble is, it's such a strain, and I think that's what people don't quite understand. Like the strain that it puts on their health, for being put on waiting lists until that document does come. You know, it also kind of puts a strain on the service as well, because if there's no funding for that document, how are we then going to source that? So then it's down to the young person who haven't got no money because they haven't got that document. So it's like a little rut they just go around in kind of circles with. So it's nice for this availability to come through, to have that breakthrough and just break that cycle for them.
Thank you, Lucy. Mark, would you like to?
Yeah, so I'm going to duck this one because I don't really have any direct experience around this. It's super interesting to hear about these cases from first-hand experience. So thank you.
Fantastic, thank
I
you.
will add there, Danny, the funding is a huge thing because services don't really fund things like that. They will let you know that we don't have the facilities to do that. So that's another huge thing. And you've got to remember a price of a passport, provisional driver's license, you still need additional ID in order to gain access to get those things as well. So again, like Lucy said, it is a bit of a rut. It's one vicious circle because how are we expecting them to access these things if there's no funding for it to assist them with it in the first place?
Absolutely, and I noticed that the passport is going to be increased for the second time in the last 6 months to £100, and it can be really, really, really expensive for people to get it a first time, and if they don't have an alternative and it gets lost, then it's going back round in a circle. Yeah, so
Yep.
funding is really important. Thank you. So in the absence of traditional identity documents, what alternative methods or approaches can be implemented to facilitate age and identity verification for young people transitioning out of care or custody, ensuring that they're not unfairly disadvantaged or marginalised? Doreen?
Yeah, it's a difficult one because without it, there's not much you can do. And I've not come across anything for myself within the normal regime of probation service that will be able to help you. So it's really difficult. I know sometimes when they come out of custody, they come out with like a little pass, but again, not everybody's accepting those passes as a form of identification. So again, you do hit a little bit of a stumbling block of where to go to access it. I do know that there is some other like agencies, if people are of a significant risk, they might be able to get some assistance there, but that is very few and far between.
Absolutely, thank you, Doreen. Lucy, would you like
In all honesty, the most in our service that we can do is literally just tell them to apply for a citizenship card. But even then, they have to come to us with a email to confirm that they are who they are, and then it has to go back, and it's back into that loop of weeks and weeks before they even get that card. So whatever opportunity was there has already been missed, and now you're on the waiting list for anything. So it is quite a big strain.
Absolutely, absolutely. And Mark?
So yeah, I was going to ask you guys actually, there's guidance from the UK government about vouching, and that would seem to me to be a really pertinent way that we could, in some better future, allow for some trust to be derived from persons of authority, and there's a big long list of those on the website, UK Gov website. But I do know that in a practical sense, it doesn't actually work very well. You know, a lot of the listed persons of authority, which I know is a loaded term already, are not really willing to do that. Like doctors' surgeries, some of them just flat say no. Solicitors and lawyers charge a fee for that service.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, you know, all of these things are, all with the best will in the world, just making the exclusion problem hard for these communities, right? There has been a bit of work around this, I know, by Scottish Government. They had a technology challenge last year around this topic, and I believe are still working on it. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out, and I really hope that it does become something that enables you guys in your work to help the individuals in question.
Absolutely. I'd like to say from, you know, my perspective of being one of the newest pass card issuers, and where Lucy mentioned about the citizens card, you know, I'd go, as I mentioned yesterday in my presentation, that my mission is really to ensure that, you know, photographic proof of age and identity is accessible, and, you know, looking at other ways of ensuring that even the application process is, you know, is still safe, but easier to access. And as you mentioned, you know, there are some people who are charging a fee to verify, you know, people. And if they're coming from challenging socioeconomic backgrounds, then, you know, they may not have the extra fee on top of being able to pay for the fee for the actual product and service. And I just, yeah, so part of IDGO's mission is to work directly with organisations and offering them a completely separate application journey process, so that people are able to get it in a much more streamlined way. So yeah, lots of work to do together. Yeah, but I just wanted to kind of mention that side.
Yeah, just another kind of shout out to that Scottish Government project. One of the things that they were really focused on, I think, was in some ways looking at the issue that Lucy was raising about the amount of time it takes to go through the processes. So the vouching kind of stuff at the moment is a very, very paper-based in-person process, and you have to, you know, book appointments and all that sort of stuff, and it only gets you one step of the way towards the actual photographic ID documents anyway. But what that project was doing was looking at taking the vouching process that exists today and moving it into the digital domain, so that it could be done much more swiftly without having to go in person and all that sort of stuff. And actually, at the end of the day, reducing the cost of operating that procedure.
Yeah.
So,
but some people, you know, just to note that, you know, some people are not able to access that, you know, that technology, and sometimes their only option is to go and do these things in person or via paper applications. And so we really need to really collaborate with the third sector organisations and ask them what is easier for them. What, you know, they're the experienced ones that are working within the sectors. What we're creating without actually asking. You know, and I think that that's really important that we do that. We you know, we ask the people who are working on the ground and with, you know, with the service beneficiaries, and even asking the service beneficiaries what would be an easier way for you, and actually creating something that, yeah. So, but thank you everyone.
Danny, I just wanted to add quickly the vouching thing as well. They want to know how long you've known this person, and when they get presented to us in the service, it could be that we've never met this person before. So it's going to be very, very difficult for us to vouch for someone that we don't actually know.
Yeah.
And I know in the past, for the years I've been in the service, that's been a huge stumbling block for us as well. And I also know that you've just mentioned about the technology side of things. For us not we sometimes put conditions on individuals that they're not allowed to have access to like any computers or smart devices or anything like that. And therefore the little small, the little small £10 pay-as-you-go phone, that's all they're allowed to use. And therefore they can't have access to those things because they're not allowed to. So that's also another stumbling block as well.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Doreen.
That's okay, you're welcome.
Thank you. So the third question goes into asking how can existing age assurance standards and identity verification processes be adapted or tailored to better accommodate the unique circumstances and needs of young people leaving care or custody, particularly those who may lack stable housing or familial support networks. Lucy, if we could start with you, if that's
Yeah. So what we find more in our service is that there just needs to be better partnerships, better collaboration, and understanding. So like for some of the housing, when they're ready to move on, they've got to have 7 years in that borough. To go and ask someone who's been through a lot of trauma and moved untold amount of times to list everywhere you've lived, is very overwhelming for them. Do you know? Like, we've got to think of their mental health, their well-being. For some of them, they don't want to declare it, but at the same time, if they collaborated well with the social services, they have that all on record. So rather than putting that pressure on that young person, that collaboration there could cut that corner. It could be done a lot faster. So it's those kind of things that I think in our service that adaptations would need to be changed to the current existing ones, just because that's what holds them back. And for some young people, like they've had situations where they've had to request for their parents' birth certificates because they don't have any formal identification. So they've got to marry up their parents with their birth certificate, and then it's waiting for that to come back. And some of them, you know, they don't know their parents, and then what are they supposed to do with that document after? Because they don't have no contact. So kind of they're stuck with a document that isn't any use, that's been provided, but could also cause a lot of trauma. So it's those kind of things that I think, personally,
Absolutely.
from what
Yeah,
I've witnessed.
when you're going for a passport, I think sometimes there's that question where they ask you for your, you know, mother's full information alongside the passport details and the father's, you know, and there are some people who are coming from some really, you know, challenging backgrounds that don't have access to that information, or will then need to go on a kind of, you know, discovery course in order to go and find the birth certificate. You can't get your birth certificate unless you know where you were registered. You know, there's all of that. So yeah, no, absolutely, I can definitely see the challenges. And Doreen,
It's the same sort of stuff for us really as well. Again, gaining that information, it would be ideal if you had one system that we all worked with and that we all had access to, that had all that information, because even when they come over to us on the cusp of 17 and 18, there's a transition period. They come from youth offending service. We don't have access to their system, so we have to rely solely on the information, all being up to date, all being correct, that then gets fed over to us. And sometimes you don't always get that information that you needed, and then you've then got quite a frustrated person in front of you that's been through the system, the care system, to presented now in an adult establishment and still not getting any further forward. And I do agree with what Lucy said. The pressure on them and on their mental health is very apparent, and they're looking to us as individuals to be that extra support network for them in order for us to get them through whatever license and sentencing they've got, to rehabilitate them or attempt to rehabilitate them so they don't end up going back to what they know, because they're using that what they know as their comfort zone. So if we can prevent that, I'm not saying everybody's going to be a success story, Danny. I've done this job for over 20 odd years. Not everybody is going to be, but there's a lot of people that do want to make changes in their life. So if we can just support them and make it a lot easier, I think we'll be possibly better on the right track.
Absolutely. Thank you, Doreen. Thank you, Lucy. Mark, is there anything you'd like to add on
I
that
don't
one?
think I can add anything to this one.
So this one, the next one says, what role can technology play in addressing the identification challenges faced by young people leaving care or custody, and how can digital solutions be designed to prioritize accessibility, security, and privacy while effectively verifying age and identity? Is it okay to start with you on this one, Mark?
Yeah, sure.
Fantastic.
There's quite a bit to unpack there.
Yeah.
I might need to get the question restated a
Should
couple
I-
of times as I work through it,
Yeah.
right? So one of the things that's really critical, and is in a paper that I was involved in writing last year, is when you're designing digital systems, particularly around digital identity, making sure you identify the communities that you need to serve. And no, I didn't say are serving. We do need to make sure that we identify the communities that are going to be affected and take conscious decisions about what we're going to do about each of the needs of each of those communities. And affected could be both positively or negatively affected as well. What I have perceived over my years of working in IT and banks and digital ID and a whole range of different things is that most technology systems, they're built with an extremely strong focus of the organization that delivers it. So they don't often end up focused on the needs of the people. They end up focused on the needs of the organization that's delivered the technology. And I think that's actually one of the huge impediments to like human success in this sort of space. So yeah, what's next on the list, Danny?
Thank you, Mark. How can digital solutions be designed to prioritize accessibility, security, and privacy while effectively verifying age and identity?
Yeah, so there's an area I'll delve into there, which is that some of those items on the list are really in tension with each other. Security and privacy would be two that I pick out, and it kind of depends on what you mean by security. Security of what, from what. So the security of the person's data against misuse by various actors along the way. Those actors could be in certain contexts, fraudsters or whatever. But there have been plenty of cases over the years in various countries around the world where the governments themselves have been the ones acting against the interests of the individual as well. So these topics are hugely contentious, and the tension between the needs of technology systems to serve people are really, really difficult to balance effectively at the end of the day.
Yeah, definitely. I'd like to just make add something on that. Myself and lots of other people who, and this is not just for young people leaving care or custody in general, when we're asked to prove our age and identity, most of the time the UK's go-to is a driver's license or a passport. The driver's license has a whole amount of information on there, your home address, your signature, and when, let's just say, young people who are going out clubbing, or even anybody who is going out of an evening and are needing to provide proof of their age or identity, they are usually asked to scan a copy of that, and you don't know where that's going. You don't know who's got access to it after. You don't know how long they're going to keep it for. And I feel like that's a part of the security and privacy. Some people, I just think that's.
Yeah, these are all
look
unintended consequences of trying to protect people from the harm of alcohol and adult environments for young people and stuff. There's another one as well, as an unintended consequence of kind of the misuse of some of the identity documents we have. So driver's license, technically is a entitlement to drive document, not an identity document, and that's quite clear in the way it's delivered. I have fairly close experience recently of a young person who was regularly using their driving license to get access to nightclubs and what have you, but due to a medical condition has had their driving license removed. So the consequence of having that driving entitlement document removed is that they now cannot access these other services. In that particular case, the individual's luckily got a passport. But you don't really want to take your passport to a nightclub every time you go out, do you?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Lucy or Doreen, is there anything you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, I was going to say if I could quickly jump in. So with social care, if the young person is suspected to be using drugs, they will not provide them even with a professional. So even just that as a form of identification due to their recreational use or potential use, they get declined. They're not allowed it.
Yeah, absolutely. There is many times that people are, not able to have that type of, proof of identity document. And that's why I really want to, push I'd go out there as much as possible. There's minimal information on our cards. And that's just all pass cards in general, not just the I'd go card is that pass. And I do feel like it needs to be pushed more, made more, more recognizable, and the branding being pushed out a lot more so that people do know that there is a safer alternative than using these valuable documents. Doreen, is there anything you'd like to add?
Danny, I'm a strong advocate for iGo. I just feel like the idea is absolutely fantastic. And I do believe that if that was presented to the service and was taken on board, it would help a hell of a lot of people, especially from the resettlement period is at least 6 months prior to anybody being released from custody, to know that they're going to have identification, it's valid, they can use it, they can get that to access all different services, apply for things, will be 100% a difference. So for me, yeah, I would root for iGo definitely, because it really would be so beneficial to these individuals that really, really need this assistance.
Thank you. Thanks, Steve.
Just to jump in as well, just to back what Doreen says, like for us, we have a referral period. So for that card to be applied for and issued during that referral period before their move in or offer of support, it would just make everyone's life so much easier and the process so much smoother and faster as well.
Yeah, even with us, and I'm jumping again there, even if it's not from custodial element, even if they receive a community order, if us in the actual front line of the service had those cards that we could literally like either apply for or present them with that at that period of time, as and when required, it would make a huge difference.
Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you.
Just on that card, actually, I also wanted to draw attention to another possibility there. So for those in the audience that don't know, it's a card that's a physical form, but it has a complementary digital component to it as well with the app, right?
Yes, it does.
Yeah. So what that may allow us to do using the technology component is to present information, at a nightclub door or wherever you need to present it, in a way that minimizes the data points that are being shared to only the points needed to answer the question that needs answered at that point in time, rather than with a physical card like a driver's license, as you say, providing way more information about the person in question than needed to access the service.
Absolutely, absolutely. Absolutely, and I appreciate all of your feedback points on the I'd Go card, and I'm really looking forward to working with you both and seeing how we can, as I've mentioned many times, is to make sure that it's affordable, accessible, and safe yeah, it's definitely needed. And yeah, thank you so much. So,
If I may jump in again, Danny.
yes,
Don't forget, some of us technology people can help too. I'd be very happy to support you on this. And there's another area that's really important that we will be keen to help you on, and that's making it interoperable so that you and other competitors, because the competitive environment is really healthy, need to be able to interact with those point of sale environments using effectively similar or interoperable bits of technology. And that's another hugely challenging area, but it's an area where my organisation has particular interest and expertise. So
that'd be fantastic, because it means that even when, you know, custody or care leavers are only able to use the physical card instead of the digital, because that's, you know, that's the kind of world that we're moving towards, and we want to make sure that as these proof of age and identity assurances move along technically, that it still is inclusive and nobody's being left out. And even if you do have the physical card, that it is accepted, like, you know, as you say, at many different point of sale places, so then nobody's feeling left out.
yeah, we need to make it for the easy for the point of sale place to accept this too.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So we're going to go straight into question 5, which is, in what ways can government agencies, social services and community organisations collaborate to provide comprehensive support systems for young people transitioning out of care or custody, including assistance with identity verification and access to essential resources? Lucy, if we could start with you, if that's okay.
Yeah. So I think the first things first is, with the applications, make them easier. Is a very long application for the young people to do, and in that process they get so confused as to what's being asked, what do they need, where do they need to go, what time do I need to bring it all back, and what's my reference, have they received it? Like, there's so many questions within that one process of trying to get that documentation that they're lost before you've even started. So I think making that process of getting the documents easier, I don't like, a bit more smoother, the transition to be, you know, kind of, even if it was a case of, again, very similar to the card, like you can go to one location and it's there, basically. Do you know what I mean? In a way of making it so like my manager said, like, it would be good if we could use their national insurance number, go onto a website or a program, and you've got their information, and the process is already there, and all you need to do is just forward it. If that makes sense, do you know, just collaborate more and more effectively.
No, it definitely
speed
makes
up the
sense.
process.
Yeah, no, I think you've got great ideas there. You know, straight away you've got me thinking visually about the application form itself. Sometimes somebody might get a little bit away through it and then realize that they might not have a certain bit of information, and then the document then should maybe be saved where they can come back to it again. Instead of having to start it all the way back from the beginning, or maybe not even looking at the, as they say, looking at the whole staircase, just looking at the first step, you know, and maybe really giving them a really fine-tuned step-by-step process, and, you know, like you said, shortening that as well, so that the customer journey is a lot quicker. I think that, you know, visually that's really good, you know, good ideas. But then we also need to think about, again, somebody who doesn't have the technology to be able to even complete that application form. What do we do then?
Even through the phone. So there was like a phone call process. I know that obviously it means employability. We've got to employ more people, and, you know, there's chance of waiting on the phone and holding the line and things like that. But you think for like someone who's seeking refuge due to abuse, rather than sitting there trying to go through their phone and do this kind of form, if you could just phone someone up, right, I need this is my information, you know, we can get it sent out, even if it was to have like a body who was there operating, because it is a wide scale, you know, it's not for the minority, it's for the majority. So even just having that body present would just make things a lot more effective.
Definitely. Maybe even a sector that deals with people who have, neurodivergence, and, some people are not actually able to read through the application forms itself. Doreen
I was just going to add the neurodiversity there. It's very, very important. I think we need to realize that not one hat fits all. And a lot of these individuals are coming with like literacy issues, not being able to read and write, not access school or anything. They're coming from like, quite a bit of disadvantaged background sometimes. I feel we definitely need to have a system in place that they can get that support. And also as well, I find that people's attention span can wear off after a while, especially like when they come out of custody, they want everything now. I know it's not always practical because it isn't, but they do. They want everything now. And how fast we're going to do this and how we're going to get it done. So if we can maybe simplify things a little bit easier, so we keep them from the distraction and just assist them more. I know it's a lot for practitioners to have to do, but this is the reason why we're in these roles, aren't we? To
Yeah.
support and help people as much as we can, not farming them off with the form and saying, look, you just go and do that and come back to me when it's done.
Right, I completely agree with you. Actually, I feel like new normal kind of consumerism, and I've always said this is, people will see it, like it, want it, and they want it right now, and they're going to buy it, right? When actually people who may be coming out of custody or care leave are always finding that things are so difficult for them that actually, why does everything have to be so challenging? Why does everything, even a simple form, have to take up so much time? For me, they can kind of feel like, why is this happening just to them, in that
For a
sense.
lot of them as well, sorry to butt in, but
That's
some of them have trauma as well. So it's like, oh, I filled in the form with that one and she didn't bother to do it. So then, and before you know it, they're already agitated before you've even asked them kind of questions. And then it's, you should have that information. Why don't you have that information? I give this
yeah,
information. So already their barrier is there and you're not getting actual correct input either for them. And it kind of, it's upsetting to witness because for them, just those questions alone, you can see have brought so much trauma, and that's without asking them, do you know their history, where they were born, all of that kind of information before you even get there. They don't want to say their name, they don't want to give their address, do you know?
yeah,
Yeah. It's going through that thing again of telling their life story to everybody.
yeah.
And if we can make that a little bit easier for them, then I feel again that would be very beneficial to be able to support them.
It's very, very helpful. Is there anything that you'd like to add?
I was just going to say, Doreen, you took the words out of my mouth. There's no one size fits all here. We need to remind the government policymakers and everybody else involved that there are a very diverse range of humans out there, and that we don't all work the same way. We don't all want or even have the capability to interact that fits inside the box that gets designed for the majority of the population or the community in question. So we need to provide choice and services which are considerate to the very wide range of needs for the service users and the population at large, right? At the end of the day, it seems to me you guys are working in a particular corner of the community, but it's a really important one if we're going to make society work. So, and actually, I hear echoes of your experiences in other sectors. The question or the thing you're sharing about why am I having to tell you this information again? We see that all time and time again in financial services too. You go to your bank to open a mortgage or whatever. You already know who I am. Yeah, you need to fill in the form. It's so frustrating and it's so common and it's really a blocker to everybody. But I can't imagine, with some of the service users you're working with, that the walls come up very quickly and it can be extremely challenging. So we just need to remind them that diverse range of needs to be taken into account when you're designing the service that you're trying to build to deliver identity documents or whatever.
Absolutely, absolutely, and it's been really, really helpful, even from my perspective as you know, going into issuing pass cards as well. It's really opening my mind as to how I can make things, you know, not just say that it's easier and accessible and affordable, but actually, yeah, really, really puts things into place, like, you know, changing the application forms. Maybe there are some application forms that are specifically in Braille, or, you know, there's loads of different ideas that are bubbling, and that's why I really want to sit down with, you know, with more organizations, you know, yourselves, and more organizations, to find out, you know, I could sit here and come up with lots of ideas, but it's you guys that are actually working with these service users and service beneficiaries, and, you know, and I feel like we need to all collaborate so much more. So yeah, no, thank you so much.
Yeah, just, there was another thing which this conversation's triggered in my mind, which was something I quite liked. It was a financial services context again, but they were providing, it was a kind of more community-focused environment, and they were providing effectively in the back of a retail environment a little shop front that provided support for people who were struggling to do digital banking. And they actually had people in there called digital coaches, and they were explicitly there to help people who were struggling with actually, you know, doing their online banking. But we could totally extend that to, you know, coaching and supporting people going through form filling and all of that sort of stuff. So that's another area that could be explored.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's so many things that we're filling out forms most days, you know, whether it be just joining a newsletter campaign and things like that. And I just think that we've all got used to doing it in the same way, and there are a lot of people who have been feeling left out. And yeah, I think it's been a really you know, deep conversation today between us all. And it's going to lead me now to our very last question for today, this afternoon. So how can awareness and advocacy efforts be strengthened to raise visibility and address systemic barriers faced by young people leaving care or custody, improving their age and identity? And what steps can be taken to ensure their rights and dignity are upheld throughout this process? I think we've talked a little bit about this, but we can go a lot more into this. Lucy, do you want to?
Yeah, I think the first thing is to understand the lived experiences that these young people have faced. So as much as when you're sitting in an office or you're behind a screen and, oh, this fits this so it makes this easier, understand for that young person, put yourself in a position where what's the worst case scenario and how would they be able to cope with this? Because if you've lived in, you know, 5 to 10 different foster homes and you have to fill out the same form and then you have to also do the same thing, you know, you're creating that barrier already. So if we can reduce that barrier and get it so that, you know, this body speaks to this body, and before you know it, we're already there, it just takes the pressure off of them, and they'll be more willing and open to the idea of change, and it will create a better outlook for them. Because you've got to think, like, the people that do come from care and from custody, they're anxious about going independent anyway. Do you know, that's already, their barrier is there because they're facing the world on their own as it seems to them. So they don't want to fail again. So without creating that barrier and putting their defences up, we've got to figure a way that supports them. And it's not that, you know, hold my hand, but here's a guide. You know, if we could speak to one body that provides this, and that body will help you to communicate with this body, it's just easier. And it's a smoother process in their head as well.
Thank you, Lucy. Thank you. Doreen?
Yeah, we have a risk assessment system that we have to complete on every person that we work with. So it's a huge document. Everything's about everything from right from the offence all the way through to the end. And prisons have access to that as well. I feel that if they were to use that document or a lot of the information on that document and start this application for people prior to them coming out, then that will be a smooth process. There might be a couple of things you might not know about, and then you can ask them, but majority of the stuff that could probably be quite triggering for individuals is available in that assessment. And that's why I say that 6 months, well, 6 to 8 months period prior to somebody being released from custody is very, very important, because there's a lot that you can get done for the individual. So when they walk out of that gate, a lot of things are in process for them already. Not waiting and scrambling around like I've seen the last day or couple of days where they've got nowhere to go, no ID, no appointments have been made. Even worse if it's on a Friday, because
Yeah.
we all know the next day Saturday, and they're not going to be having access to none of these services until the Monday. If we can literally get that sorted prior, I think it will be a lot more beneficial for the individuals. And like I said, I root for IGO and throw IGO in there as well. I think, Danny, for you, if you could have access to the custodial settings, whether it's adult establishment or youth offending services from the off, and they know what they're getting, I think that will be another vital point for them as well.
Thank you. Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that as we move forward, a lot of people talk about this cashless society, and a lot of people, when they are released from prison, they're given a certain amount of cash, money, and then that could go really, really quickly. They're not able to actually, they probably end up spending that in the convenience shop, just getting snacks and things like that. Instead of being able to have their prepaid card, they might want to buy something from Amazon, maybe, some duvets, or anything. It could be that, and it just opens it up, that they're able to spend that money that bit more wisely, or think first before spending. There's a lot of different things that I want to open up, but I can only do that by collaborating and sitting down with you all and figuring out how is this going to work, and how is it going to work best to help, and I really appreciate you both made the time to be here today, and I think you've both done really great, and it's going to be great to work with you, and it means that we can create something that really benefits your service beneficiaries. Honestly, I'm really excited about doing that with you both, and even things like having plugins into the app that is specified to your target audience. Like you said, one size doesn't fit all. They may not be able to, we want to, even if they don't have the app, there's still some really good things that they can do with the physical card. It's just those things that we'll sit down and discuss, and I just want to say thank you again for you both.
Yeah,
being
I'll
here.
add that to that, Danny, because we spend quite a lot of time with these individuals. If there's a way that we could access the system, like I said, a lot of people get restrictions on them that they're not allowed to access certain things. I know for me, how I work with my service users, I would sit down with them and I would go through that with them in order to get them that card. If it hasn't been done prior to them leaving custody, or if they're in a community order, 100% I would. So if there's any way that there's a system that we could access as well, that would be absolutely perfect, because I would definitely use it.
Yeah, because then you don't have to always add, one of the things I noticed with Verifiers is they have to add their passport document information into those application forms too. And like you said, you don't always really know that they're just being sent to you in order for you to help resettle and reintegrate. So yeah, I definitely want to work on a new system that allows you to be able to create the applications. And and I just want to ask, because we just got a few minutes left, is there anything that anybody wants to add? Mark, would you like to add anything?
Just on the question of advocacy, I think you guys have got amazing stories to tell. You're really very clear about the experiences you've had, and I think getting this stuff spoken more in more public environments and different public environments is going to be really powerful. Go to places where people are talking about building technical solutions and explain the challenges that your community and your service users are facing, and that might just help shift the needle a little more in the favour of these people. So that would be probably the one thing I would say on that front. Also, the comment you're making, Doreen, about being able to support your service users and be the, the one who maybe takes certain actions on their behalf. There's some things that we can do in the technical space to actually make that really a directly supported capability as well. So we can talk offline about what I can do to help you guys with the kind of implementation side of that as well. I think that'd be really interesting.
Fantastic.
you,
What I'll do is I'll
definitely.
definitely connect everybody and send emails, and it would be great for us to actually have another conversation. But sitting down, sometimes technical solutions can come across as, you've got this house and you've got somebody that just comes in and paints it however they want to, and then says, ta-da, there it is. You use that, and it may not be anything that you actually need within that. So, we want to be able to, if we're going to create it, we're going to create solutions. We want to be able to sit down with the experienced individuals, the professionals who are telling us, what do we need? What does it need to look like? How does it need to act? How does it need to respond?
And what doesn't work.
And what doesn't work.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there anything that Doreen or Lucy, that either of you would like to add before we bring the session to an end?
Yeah, hurry up and get IGO out there. We need it.
Thank you, Doreen.